everybody? Happy Friday, Junior. From everyone here at Prime Sports World, also known as Thursday. I'm Coach, your host, David On Point. Helping right there is my co-host, Mr. T.J. Hopkins. And on today's episode of the Prime, we're going to be talking about the Seattle Seahawks, one of the many surprise teams from 2022, along with the New York Football Giants, who also came out of kind of nowhere, ended up making the playoffs last season. Led mostly by the play of Geno Smith. We're going to talk about what we think they're going to be like this upcoming season, as that's what we do here at Prime Sports World. We preview every single season, for every single team, every single year. TJ, happy Thursday, man. How are you, buddy?
Same old. You know, no complaints. All that good stuff.
I feel that. I feel like I got a little bit of a cold coming on here. With the weather kind of deciding to be like really cold, like I can feel myself catching a cold. So, you know, there's that. But let's move on. Let's talk about the 2023 season storylines for those Seattle Seahawks and those 12 man. Let's talk about the man himself, most improved player of the comeback player of the year, I believe, last season. Geno Smith, as he had his best season as a pro by far. With throwing for 4,200 yards, 30 touchdowns to only 11 interceptions. He threw it at basically 70% completion percentage, which was number one in the National Football League. I also think he had the highest quarterback rating in the NFL last year. The next closest season to that kind of production was his rookie season as a member of the New York Jets, where he threw for 3,000 yards. He threw 12 touchdowns, and unfortunately, he threw 21 interceptions. He's never really been able to produce this kind of productivity in back-to-back seasons. What do you say about it now that he's also got paid?
Well, like anybody else, do it again.
But he's progressively shown that he was solid in the 4 games that he started with them in the season before. Similar completion percentage, 700 yards, 5 touchdowns to 1 pick, but that was only in 4 games. He balled out last season, and you made people like, hey, we should kind of keep an eye on Geno Smith there.
Well, it's easy to ball out when you have no expectations. When you have
playing with house money.
You're playing with house money to the fullest, and let's keep in mind, the last time we saw Geno Smith as a starter before this past season was 7 years or something like that.
Yeah, it was the longest. I think it's the longest that anyone went between opening day starts in NFL history. I think he started in 2013 or 2014 as a member of the New York Jets, and then he didn't start a game again until this most recent season in Seattle in 2022. So 8 seasons.
That's a long time. Like that for most players, that's a career, right? 8 years.
You don't normally still in the NFL like after 8 years of not starting a game in the NFL, like
especially at the quarterback position like that.
Once you become designated as the quote unquote backup guy,
it's hard to break out of that role.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it's hard to become a starter again, like a consistent starter, unless you went into Seattle this most recent season. There was no expectations on the Seahawks. I talked about them. We talked about them a little bit on the last show on Tuesday. We talked about the Arizona Cardinals. Like I predict Seattle to go 1-16 last season. They didn't do that. Obviously, they made the playoffs last year. I think they were 10-7 or something like that, and ended up being a wild card team. Kudos to them for proving me wrong. Geno Smith. But now there are expectations now in Seattle. You're not playing. Yeah. This isn't the same scenario that you were playing with last season. Like you're not going to sneak up on anybody this year.
No, you're expected to hang in there with San Francisco as long as you can for that divisional spot. For that divisional crown. But shout out to Geno Smith for like having the mental fortitude to stay ready and stay tough. And because we get the notification that Russell Wilson is traded to Denver for Drew Lock and Noah Fant and some stuff, a bunch of stuff.
Shelby Harris, couple first round picks.
Yeah, some stuff, and they go to the press conference to talk about it and all that good stuff, and Pete Carroll's gets asked a question about Drew Lock. Is Drew Lock going to be the starter? Da da da. And Pete Carroll with a straight face says, "Oh no, Geno's still here. We still got Geno. Geno's here, and I'm gonna do what any good coach does in that situation. These guys are gonna go into camp. It's gonna be a competition, and may the best man win. And the best man won.
Yep.
And,
and he got cashed out. I mean,
he got cashed out.
He was playing last season on a 1 year, $895,000 contract, which, in terms of starting quarterbacks in the NFL, that's pennies. His new contract is 3 years, $105 million. He benefits by the fact that, I guess we'll talk about this in a minute, he might have the best wide receiving core in the NFL. With DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, and JSN, the guy they drafted in the first round. Noah Fant is a free agent that they have not re-signed, but they still have Will Dissly on the roster as a good tight end.
And Kobe Parkinson.
Jake Bobo, another guy who showed out in their one single preseason game, as D. Eskridge has probably played his last game in the National Football League as he's suspended for domestic violence situation. Shout out. Also, he's from Fort Wayne, which is kind of disappointing that he didn't pan out in the NFL as a former second-round pick. But, I mean, he's got a really good running back room, too. I mean, DJ Dallas, Zach Carbonet, and Kenneth Walker III, and they also drafted Kenny McIntosh. I'm not sure how much he'll actually play in 2023. But, I mean, he's got some really good players at the skill position. And, not to mention, he may have the best tackles, arguably the best tackles in the NFL, with Charles Cross and Abraham Lucas having really solid rookie seasons. Look to build on that this year.
Yeah, and those are two rookies, right? So you got two.
Yeah.
You had two rookie tackles back, like blocking you on probably arguably the most important spots on the offensive line. And yeah, everybody thought like the rebuild was going to be on after you trade Russell Wilson away, because for so many years after, well, not so many, like a few years after the Legion of Boom is no more and all that other good stuff, like Russell Wilson was the only thing that made them watchable.
Yeah.
Right.
But the other thing that they benefit from last season is they played they were the worst team in their division last year, so they played a worst team division schedule. Not this year. They're playing the second best team in their division schedule.
Yeah, but hey, that comes with the expectations.
Yeah.
So
that swings me back to our original point. Do you think that Geno Smith can do production that he produced in 2022 in 2023? What number wise are you expecting out of Geno Smith this year? What do you think he's going to play like? Do you think he's going to stay where he is now, or do you think he's going to fall back to what's been kind of his standard when it comes to his expectations in the NFL?
What did he do last season? What was his numbers last season?
So 40 yards, 70% completion percentage, 30 touchdowns to just 11 interceptions. He also ran 366 yards in his tutty.
Yeah. I think he repeats that. Again, you're competing against the 49ers to win the division. The only difference with this year is, like you said, there's loftier expectations now. You're not catching anybody off guard. All your rookies that you had last season are okay. Do it again. Tariq Woolen, you easily could have won Defensive Rookie of the Year.
Yep.
Over Sauce Gardner, like easily. I mean, he easily could have won that over him. Can he repeat? Yeah, absolutely. You add JSN to an already talented wide receiver room with Metcalf and Lockett and Kenneth Walker in the backfield. Yeah, he can 100% repeat that.
I'm not so sure, but I think he's going to have a good season. I don't know if he'll be able to replicate the numbers that he put up last season, but we'll see. Let's talk about the wide receivers. Best wide receiver duo in the National Football League when it comes to DK Metcalf. We don't see. But talk about it as a duo. Is there a better duo in the National Football League than DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett? As far as just skill and yes?
Yes, there's two. There you got Chase and Higgins in Cincy, and you got Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle down in Miami. Um, I know the latter part is quote unquote newer. They've only played a season together, but the numbers they put up with Tua missing a bunch of games is insane. Tyreek Hill was on track to be Offensive Player of the Year till Tua got hurt.
He was on track to break Calvin Johnson's record. He was on track to have over 2,000 rushing yards. I'll give you those two. I'm T Higgins and Jamar Chase. I think are fine. I would rather have Tyler. I would rather have Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf than I
No,
would rather have Jamar Chase. Jamar Chase is the best of those four wide receivers, right? He is, but I would take Lockett and DK Metcalf before I get back to T Higgins.
Like in terms of consistency, Tyler Lockett is not talked about enough, in my opinion. Like in terms of
four straight seasons of over 1,000 yards receiving, and the fifth year, 2018, he had 965 yards, missed it by 45 yards.
45 yards. That's literally a quarter of work. Yeah, a quarter of work. One catch, a one go route. Hey,
and DK Metcalf, on the other hand, has had a 900 yards his rookie season, 1,300 his second season, 987 his third season, and basically 1,000 yards his fourth season, just over 1,000, 1,048. So if he had just given that 48 yards to Tyler Lockett, he would have had. They would have had 4,000 yards basically in a row.
That's not bad for a guy with a quote unquote limited route tree, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So are they the best receiver duo in the NFL? No, they're not. Again, I gave my two. It's gonna be other duos chomping at the bit.
I mean, Brandon Ayuk and Deebo Samuel are for sure in the conversation when you talk about.
They in the conversation. AJ Brown and Devontae Smith, like they in the conversation. If he was more consistent, you would have Stephon Diggs and Gabe Davis in that conversation. Like it's yeah, I already said my two, and then you got pick your poison with DJ Moore and his running mate in Chicago, whether it's Claypool or Mooney. That's going to be whoever that is. That's going to be a formidable 1-2 punch. So
yeah, but best wide receiver duo in the NFL. I'm not totally buying that. But they're in that pantheon, right? They're in the top. When we talk about top three wide receiver duos in the NFL, I think you probably mention their names before you don't.
Oh yeah. I mean, I think that conversation starts and ends with the duos I said before them. So Chase and Higgins, Hill and Waddle, and then fill in the blank. If you want to put them third, you can put them third. I don't have a problem with that.
Moving on from there, let's talk a little bit about this secondary and what kind of the expectations are for this secondary coming up here. Could this be arguably the best secondary in the NFL this season? With Devon Witherspoon coming in here as a rookie, as a top 5 pick.
Starting slot corner.
Tariq Woolen, I guess, has changed his name from Tariq to just Reek.
Reek?
Yeah, I don't really know what that is. But, yeah, he's Tariq Woolen. I'm just going to go with Tariq Woolen. I don't – ESPN.com has him as just R-I-K Woolen.
R-I-Q.
Q, yeah, sorry, yeah. So I could have sworn it was Tariq Woolen last season.
It is. He probably just changed his name to Reek.
Okay. Oh, all right. Hopefully that goes better for him than it did for the guy from Game of Thrones. You know. Moving on for Reek Woolen. And then the safeties here, Jamal Adams and Quandre Diggs. Not to mention they signed Julian Love as a free agent as well. This is an opportunity to be one of the best secondaries in the NFL, if not the best.
Yeah, so obviously I think their secondary starts and ends with Jamal Adams. Like he got to stay healthy. He has to be there. He has to be he has to be the glue that keeps that unit together. Because
he didn't play at all. I think he played one game last season, right?
One game, and this is coming off a season like the season before last year. He was one of the top sack getters in the league, and
Yeah,
he's from
he led this team in sacks last
like
season.
like
2 years ago actually, with 9.5 sacks. Yeah, he played
from the
one game last
safety
season.
spot. Like he led the team in sacks from the safety spot with 9.5. Like you don't want your safety getting 9.5 sacks. So that means he's always in the box. You don't want your safety all in the box all the damn time. That's just terrible.
But I mean,
Um,
this is a Seattle team that had a winning record last season, and without arguably their best defensive player for all but one game. I mean,
Probably.
they finished the season 9-8. Their best defensive player was on the sideline for 16 of those 17 games. He played one game, and I think he got injured like stupid early in that one game. Like I don't remember exactly what the injury, broken leg, something like that, broken foot. But he's coming back, and he's going to be a big part of this defense. I think this secondary has the opportunity to be like the best secondary in the NFL. Period.
and again, Tariq Woolen should 100% feel like he got snubbed by the vote getters. Because I think it was one of those situations where it's like this one guy has so much hype coming into the season. It's like, hey, we can't not give him this award. Like Sauce Gardner has so much hype coming in, like going into the draft and getting drafted out of the University of Cincinnati. It's not like he was getting drafted out of Alabama or LSU or Michigan or a USC or a school like that. He was getting drafted out of Cincinnati. Right? Cincinnati had that big run. They made the college football playoff, and Sauce Gardner was getting top draft pick talk, and Tariq Woolen equally had just as good of a rookie year as Sauce Gardner did.
Yep. Went to University of Texas San Antonio as well.
And all everybody talked about last season was the work that Sauce Gardner did. So if Tariq Woolen was to come out and say, hey, I got snubbed, you can't sit there and say, like, hey, he's crazy, because he's not.
Yeah, I think this secondary has a real opportunity to be absolutely special. We'll see how it ends up shaking out as the season plays out. Let's move on from there. Let's talk about their draft a little bit. A lot of picks, but a lot of picks for this team. Obviously, took Devin Witherspoon in the first round. Was it 5 overall or 4 overall?
5.
Yeah, and then they took Jackson Smith-Njigba as the first wide receiver, I believe, off the board at pick 20. They took an edge out of Auburn, Derek Hall. They took a running back out of UCLA with the second Cabernet. Anthony Bradford, offensive lineman out of LSU. Cameron Young, defensive line out of Mississippi State. Mike Moore's edge out of Michigan. I am not even going to try to pronounce that name. The center out of Michigan. Jarek Reed, the safety out of New Mexico. And then Kenny McIntosh coming off winning the Natty, running back out of Georgia.
That's a depth move. Fully expect Kenneth Walker to be back, and I know they lost Travis Homer in free agency because he's here, Chicago.
They also lost
Rashad Penny, right?
Correct.
So yeah, maybe he might get some burn. So it's entirely possible.
I mean, Zach Charbonnet is for sure going to play a little bit.
Yeah, Zach Charbonnet. Yeah, he's gonna play. He's gonna play for sure. And obviously Devon.
He might be the most complete, one of the most complete backs coming out of this draft class. He can do a little bit of it all.
I mean, he ain't Chase Brown, and then I'm just playing. But getting Devon Witherspoon and Jackson Smith-Njigba in the first round, that's like, yo, that is just disgustingly unfair. How they were able to, how the cards fell for them that way. Because for JSN to still be on the board at 20,
yep,
is, say what you want, like, yo, that's criminal.
I mean, Jackson Smith-Njigba was so productive in 2021. He set the Big Ten single season record for receiving yards out of every player who's ever played in the Big Ten. So just think about some of those names who played in the Big Ten over the course of the history of the Big Ten. He has more receiving yards in one season than anybody ever.
Like, and just out of his alma mater alone, like, can you imagine like the nightmares a dude like Ted Ginn Jr. used to give players?
Yeah, it's Antonio Holmes. I mean,
It's Antonio Holmes, like bro, like, and he has more yards in one season than those two.
yeah, yeah. I mean, he's got the skill set to be an excellent wide receiver. We'll see what they end up using, how they end up using him, where they end up situating him in their offense. Yeah, Devin Witherspoon, 5'11", 181 pounds. He's going to have to bulk up, obviously, playing the national football.
No, he doesn't.
What?
Headhunter. He is fine.
And I mean, they had a major question mark at the corner outside of Woolen. This addresses that immediately. You would have maybe liked them to address the edge rusher, but when you have an opportunity to get a shutdown corner, you absolutely should do that in the top 5. And because I think there are a lot of question marks about the edge rushers on the board even still. If this guy's going to be proven, he goes to Illinois. Outside linebacker at Auburn, 6'3", 254 pounds, ran a 4.55 in the 40-yard dash, 10 feet 7 inches in the broad jump. So yeah, both rank in the top 10% of all edge defenders at the combine since 2003.
And they got because Kobe Bryant was the other starting corner. So if they go nickel, how it's really going to go, it's going to go Tariq Woolen on one side, Kobe Bryant on the outside, and Devon Witherspoon is going to be that nickel corner. Because Kobe Bryant
they have Kobe Bryant listed as their safety, a third backup safety right now. I don't know.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense to me. Like that makes zero sense. But then again, the stuff that ESPN does sometimes also makes, that's just how they operate. Like, no, dude's a corner. He literally played corner last season. Like, he's a corner.
The running back out of UCLA, 6 foot, 214 pounds, a big physical running back, rushed for 27 touchdowns. He had just over 2,500 yards in the last 2 seasons after transferring from Michigan. He's also a productive pass catcher with 61 receptions over that same 2-year span. Should be one of the. He was also the second most. He had the second most broken tackles, only trailing Bijan Robinson, who went obviously the top 10. You know how many broken tackles or evaded tackles Zach has in 2 seasons at UCLA? If you had a guess,
what
I'm not going. How many? 124. He had 124 broken tackles in 2 seasons at college.
Is that Michigan and UCLA or just UCLA?
No, that's just UCLA. That's just 2 years while he was at UCLA.
That's the Pac-12. That's that weak shit. Like that's that. Yeah.
True. They didn't have a 3rd round pick. They did pick in the 4th round. They took Anthony Bradford, guard out of LSU, 6'4", 332 pounds. Just another depth position that you can play at either guard position. You can always have enough offensive linemen. Defensive end tackle Cameron Young, 6'3", 304 pounds. Since they let Shelby Harris walk in free agency, he becomes a guy who could play some meaningful minutes for them at the defensive tackle position. Mike Morris, defensive end out of Michigan, 295 pounds. He's just another guy who gives you some depth. Had 7.5 sacks in 12 games in 2022 as a member of Michigan. The center out of Michigan, I don't have a lot of information on him. I'm just going to be totally honest with you.
Well, obviously, when you're at a program like Michigan, the skill players take precedent, right? So I'm not saying those guys that like on the front aren't worthy of recognition because they did the damn thing. Like Blake Corum is a household name because of those guys up front and because of the work they put in.
Yep.
And so, like, hey, if you can never have too many offensive linemen. I'd rather have a surplus than not enough.
And then Jarek Reed, the safety out of New Mexico, a little undersized at 5'10", 196 pounds, but he also could play corner. And he played a little bit of corner and safety in college. Fun fact about Reed, he's from Olive Branch, Mississippi, which is actually the same hometown as K.J. Wright. And their families are close friends, and they still kind of communicate to this day, which is interesting.
Nice.
And then Kenny McIntosh, probably going to be a special teamer. I don't know, 6 foot, 204 pounds. He's built a lot like Zach Charbonnet. We'll see what kind of production. 4.62 in the 40, which is not ideal for somebody who's a running back. But they still count him as a steal in the 7th round. I didn't think he'd still be here.
I don't think he thought he'd still be there, but you don't care. He got drafted.
100%. I think as a whole, based on their first 2 picks in this draft, I actually think this is a solid like BP plus when it comes to their draft. I think they did a pretty solid job here.
Oh yeah, no problem. No complaints.
From there, let's talk about roster shakeup. First of all, notable additions. Draymond Jones, Julian Love, who I referenced earlier, J-Ron Reed, Bobby Wagner returns after 1 season as a member of the Los Angeles Rams, returns to Seattle where it all got started. Devin Bush, who had a very high ceiling when he was at one point when he was a member of the Pittsburgh Steelers, but the hype around him has definitely cooled off over the last few years. Notable departures, Shelby Harris, Quinton Jefferson, and Noah Fant. I know on ESPN.com they still have Noah Fant listed on the active roster. Based on the website that I use when I build these graphics, he's an unsigned free agent. So,
well, until it's officially listed that he signs elsewhere, he's a Seattle Seahawk. So, okay. Yeah, that website that you use, they just like jumping the gun. No, he just hasn't signed. Like they have him. He's an available player. Like he's just unsigned. Then continue to keep him on the list. Don't take him off don't remove him off the team because he's not signed.
I think if they were going to sign him, they would have done it by now. But you know.
Okay, and you say that all the time.
All right, I will just put somebody else on here, so we don't want to upset you.
We don't know what conversations being had in that room.
You're right. There you go. There's somebody who's for sure on a different team. Sounds like it's spell. Jonathan Abram, Harvard hidden safety, was cut by the Las Vegas Raiders during last year's season. Signed with the Seattle Seahawks on a partial deal. He's now in New Orleans. Okay, happy.
I mean, you should be.
I'm happy as I am, my friend.
ESPN has him listed on the depth chart. So use the depth chart.
Anyways, back to the point here. I think getting Bobby Wagner here is really big. He goes to Los Angeles. Like it almost feels like he's just kind of like, oh, I'm going to go to Los Angeles Rams and try to win a ring. Oh wait, I didn't win one there. I know he already has one, but Seattle's actually better than the Rams, so I'm just going to go back.
I don't even think it was about that in the first place. Like Seattle did him bogus. Like let's call it what it is. Like they did him wrong. Like he shows up, all his stuff is in trash bags, and yeah, Bobby, you're cut. Thank you for your service, but you're cut. He went to the Rams because they play the Seahawks twice a season.
Yeah, that's probably true. That's probably true. I was actually kind of surprised when the announcement came up that he actually went back here. You think that bridge was super burnt and he wouldn't be able to go back, but just shows to show you, bridges are never completely burnt.
No, because all it takes is one side to admit their wrongdoing, and I'm pretty sure the Seattle organization, whoever the powers may be that did that decision, are like, yeah, we handled that poorly. We did that, like we were wrong to do you like that. And you don't do your team, you don't do your franchise legends like that. You just don't do that. Like that is team management 101 on how not to treat. Like it's like I've given you 8 good years of all pro play, 2 Super Bowl trips, a Super Bowl ring, and you pay me back by not only not re-signing me, but by putting my stuff in the trash bag for me and sending me and giving me my walking papers. Nah, bruh. They lucky they.
Draymond Jones has been a really good defensive end over the course of his career. Defensive end, defensive tackle. He's never had less than 3.5 sacks in the season that was in his rookie year. Every season after that, 6.5, 5.5, 6.5, playing 13 games in most of those campaigns. He's a guy that can get some pressure on the quarterback. He's a good football player. He should be a productive piece for Seattle. I think Julian Love is a nice depth piece of safety. Jaron Reed, Packer fans are always super high on him. He's now on this team. Devin Bush was a really good linebacker, still a good football player. We'll to see what he looks like as a member of the Seattle Seahawks. The Shelby Harris, losing Shelby Harris is kind of tough. He was a good defensive tackle. He was a key piece also in the Russell Wilson trade. It's tough to see a guy like that who was productive for you walk. Quentin Jefferson is another defensive tackle now plays for the Jets. I honestly do not know a lot about him, so there's that. But as it comes to the roster shakeup, I love the Bobby Wagner re-signing, bringing him back in the fold into where he should never have left in the first place. But this is probably a B minus.
Yeah.
From there, let's talk about the schedule of the Seattle Seahawks. And starting off that first game in Seattle against their rival there in the division with the Los Angeles Rams. TJ, who wins that game? I caught the very end of your guys' episode yesterday, and I'm aware that you guys had like the Rams with like 3 wins. So,
I mean, ESPN, they did a ceiling and floor for most teams. Like they said, like the ceiling for the Rams is like 10 wins. Their floor is like 7 wins. I'm like, I'm trying to find it. Like I'm trying to find the 10 wins. I'm not trying to be disrespectful. But I think I gave them at the most 5.
Yeah, I only caught the tail end of that when Izzy was talking about it when he only had them with 3 wins. But yeah, the Seattle Seahawks win this game. I think they're just better. The Rams, I think, as would probably get talked about a little bit yesterday, their lack of having legitimate like high value draft picks over the last 3 seasons has finally caught up with them as they're unable to really rebuild this offensive line, rebuild their secondary, rebuild this wide receiving core. And I don't know what's going on with their running back room. They're going to be a mess again this season. I'm just going to go on a limb and assume that they get swept by Seattle.
I ain't going to go that far because we say that all the time, but these in-division matchups are always tough for whatever reason, no matter how bad the other team is. For whatever reason, they're always tough for whatever reason. I just don't understand it. Looking at their schedule as a whole, I hate that early bye. That's a week 5 bye. Like that's tough. Hate that. Looking at it all together,
I think it's going on.
Looking at it all together, do I see 10 wins for Seattle? That's tough. Like if they go 9-8, that wouldn't surprise me. Like because it's again, Detroit's not the pushover they used to be. Carolina, that's probably a W. The Giants are a playoff team. Cincinnati, that's gonna be fun to watch. Arizona, that's a W. Cleveland's looking to bounce back. Baltimore's looking to bounce back. Washington, that's probably a W because I don't know about the quarterback situation. Again, and that's a hell of a gauntlet to end the season.
Yeah.
San Fran, Dallas, San Fran, Philly, Tennessee, Pittsburgh, Arizona. That's tough.
I think that this is a team that's probably going to win 9 or 8 games this season. Like they get a rematch after that Rams game. I think they win. They go to Detroit in a rematch that was the highest game of last season. Where the final score was like 48-45, right? But I think the Lions actually get that game. I think they beat Carolina. I think they lose to the New York Giants. They lose to Cincinnati. They beat Arizona. They beat Cleveland. They lose to Baltimore. They beat the Washington Commanders. Internet's having a really hard time right now. They go to SoFi and they win that game. They get swept by the San Francisco 49ers. They get beat by Dallas. They lose to Philadelphia. They go to Tennessee and they win the game because I don't know the quarterback position. They beat Pittsburgh and they beat Arizona. That's about a 9-win team.
Yeah, give or take 2 wins. It's tough, man. Like again, you said it last season. Last place schedule, no expectations, house money. You had 5 picks for the entire draft. you hit on you just lucked up and you hit on every pick. This season, it's second place schedule, lot more playoff teams. You're not a secret anymore, and it's all right. How do you handle the loftier expectations? So like Geno Smith, it all goes back to Geno Smith because that time in New York for the first time, probably in his life, he was told, "Hey, dude, you suck." Like for the first, like think about like for the first time in his entire life as a football player, he got told, "Hey, dude, you suck. You are not it." Like we were so wrong on you. Like Pop Warner, high school, college, he was the man. He was the guy. And then you
He
go to
certainly
the
wasn't hearing
NFL,
stuff like that. He certainly wasn't hearing stuff like that when he was at West Virginia. So,
right? And you go there, and it's like you go there, and like you get drafted, and it's like, all right, optimism, of course, initial optimism. Then all of a sudden, it's oh damn, dude, you're Tavon Austin's not flying down the field wide open, catching your deep balls, and it's like, oh damn, everybody's fast.
yeah. But I have Seattle at 9-8. I don't know if that's good enough to be a playoff team in this upcoming season.
They're gonna need some help.
I think they're going to be right there in the thick of it when we talk about playoff teams. We'll do at some point do an NFC preview episode where we're going to preview all the teams we think will make the playoffs in the NFC. You don't want to miss that content. That's happening sometime within the next 2 weeks before the start of the NFL season. But yeah, that's been our Seattle Seahawks season preview. Thank you very much for joining us. We're going to do the 49ers show at some point this weekend. Izzy's going to host that show. I will be out of town this weekend. So thank you very much for joining us. Please like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. My name is David Huppin. Right there is my co-host, TJ Hopkins. And TJ, what do we do here at the prom, my friend?
We go to work because I gotta go to work.
I'm about to have some dinner. I don't know what I'm about to get, but I'm gonna get something. I'm starving. So
Yeah,
all I've had to eat today was a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. So
you gotta get better at cooking.
Man, I have to work all day, man. Like I can't just take stuff to the office. Like I have to eat something I can just eat at my desk.
I said what I said. You gotta get better at cooking. I'm out.
I'll see you guys later. Peace out.